Welcome back to another high-level match of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is the finals of the ESL Open Cup number 183 for the North American region. Game number 1 in this best-of-5 series, we find ourselves on the map AGRESSION. Okay, and spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner. One of my favorite North Americans from the state of France. We're looking inside of the main base of Clem, and his opponent in the opposite corner with the blue Terran SCVs. He goes by the name of ByuN. Alrighty, so there's 3 ESL Open Cups, just on the off chance you're unfamiliar. There are 3 ESL Open Cups every week, and they just determine what server the games are going to be played on. So you can play from anywhere in the world, and apparently both Clem and ByuN decided to sign up for this particular North American one, and, well, turns out they're very good at the game. Alrighty, so in my mind, ByuN is generally the more aggressive player, but apparently it's gonna be Mr. Clem here, who decides to rush out a bunch of barracks, and he's even gonna add on a tech lab here. I'm assuming if you're gonna add on a tech lab to this first one, that you'll add one to the second as well, so you can start rushing out those marauders. This is a build that is very all-in. Like, you need to, at the very least, deal significant amounts of damage with it, because the transition is, well, you're first off gonna have to fly these barracks back home, which takes forever, but the transition is not gonna hit until much later. Alrighty, so is ByuN going to check for this? He is gonna send his Reaper in a very defensive position here, but... oh no, I don't think he's gonna find out. He could have just sent it right over there to the low ground and he would have been okay. Right now he's waiting on the high ground here to see where the opponent's Reaper is gonna be coming in from, so hopefully he can get the first hit in. He's not gonna scout this. Command Center starts up on the low ground. Concussive Shell's already researching right here for Clem, who is ready to start this series off with a bang. Now, I'm assuming he's gonna hit right about the time that the third one hits, or at the very least when Concussive Shells is nearly done. Yeah, we're gonna hit right with these 3 units. A couple SCVs available as well. Maybe for some bunkers, maybe just to soak up some hits, but this is gonna be painful. There's Concussive Shells. Concussive Shells slow down those units. Luckily for ByuN, though, he managed to run this away for quite a while. That's the first Reaper going down. Cyclone on the production tab right now, coming out in that factory, but we'll see if, yeah, this is ever going to happen. Just hitting all these supply blocks is incredibly painful. Command Center on the low ground already cancelled. Second depot here in some trouble as well. Now, that grenade is very nice, though, because, yeah, those units are no longer split up. Cyclone is going to spawn here eventually. Clem is really starting to lay down the hurt, though. And I think, honestly, this damage may already be a little bit too much, huh? Yeah, there's the Cyclone, so it is going to be able to eventually clean all of this up, but the SCV count is just simply nothing to write home about. At this point, so much damage has been done. The 2 SCVs that were responsible for building those barracks, they also did get sniped, but at this point, ByuN has less workers than he started the game off with, and good luck trying to micro your way out of this one, ByuN. I mean, he's very good at controlling units. The problem is, Clem is also known for his unit control. I know that a lot of the European pros, especially the Zergs, they are terrified of Mr. Clem's Reaper control, and that is something that, well, ByuN is very well known for too. Generally speaking, Clem does seem to struggle a little bit when there's some ping. So, yeah, okay, this is just game over. I was gonna say, ByuN can play this out for another 5 minutes if he wants to, but there's really no way he's gonna win. Really, Clem? Okay. So what I was saying is that sometimes Clem seems to struggle a little bit when there is some ping, just because he is such a micro-heavy player. And when you're playing on the NA server from France, I'm assuming you have a ping of about 150, give or take. It kind of depends on which server you're playing on. Usually they'll be alternating between the different American servers just to make it as fair for both players. So I believe they alternate between NA West and NA Central right now, but it kind of depends on where players are located geographically. Either way, apparently Clem is, yeah, ready to continue this series with some more aggression. Another proxy barracks coming up on the other side of the map. This is barracks number 2, however, with one of them just, well, on top of the high ground. Is this something that ByuN is going to be concerned of at all? So he did already start up with the double refinery here. This does mean that ByuN wants to go into a pretty quick factory as well. He's going to be forced to delay his command center for quite a bit, but yeah, so far at the very least, we don't have any SCV scouting or anything along those lines. He'll be scouting once again, I believe, here with that Reaper of his, and the question is, will he stumble upon this barracks? This is, as far as like proxy barracks locations go, a relatively conservatively positioned proxy racks, but Clem, of course, is going to be able to start pumping out those Reapers 2 at a time, and they are actually going to sync up quite nicely, right? So even though the well, the build time is a little bit out of whack here, with this one coming out much sooner. By the time he gets across the map, yeah, he'll be able to meet his friend. They can hold hands as they use their jetpacks to just zoom straight towards the main base of ByuN. Alrighty, so factory coming up right here for ByuN. We'll probably be seeing one here eventually as well. There we go for Clem, who also, of course, has the double refinery in his main base. Once again, Reaper here is scouting. He needs to be very careful that he does not lose that first shot. The first shot is critical. That's also why the SCV is here. Yeah, the SCV does take the beating. Super nice. Look at that micro here from Clem. And this is what's difficult to do when you have a little bit of ping. High ground advantage right now for ByuN though. So Clem does lose the chase here eventually, but that was very dangerous. Second Reaper just spawned as well. Reaper grenades, yeah, at the very least force some of those units to turn around. But once again, Clem gets a banger of an engagement, and he forces the opponent. I was gonna say, he kills the command center. He forces the opponent right there to cancel the CC on the low ground. That micro, by the way, it doesn't look very difficult, but it's actually very tricky to pull off, because you have to keep in mind that Reapers can pretty much fire and move at the same time. If you hold position or you stop command them, it's easy to mess up if you, well, don't take into account the ping. So those are the little moves that the players are continuously working on, especially in Terran versus Terran though. The micro here is very delicate. And so far, yeah, okay, I like the first little wave right there from Clem, but the second one, not quite as inspiring. In the end though, yeah, good start right here for the player in red. Just forcing the command center down the drain is already very nice, whereas he's making his own one right now at home as well. Is this critical? Probably not. Nah, usually Terran versus Terran is a matchup that, well, you can very easily mess up and lose the game, but it is a matchup that is quite difficult to win in. As soon as like Cyclones are out and then eventually Siege Tanks and all that, it's really difficult for the aggressive player to actually get an engagement in where they are going to be getting the upper hand. Like the Cyclone will pretty much always get the lock on before you can engage it. And the same for the Siege Tanks, right? I mean, they just shoot at a very long distance. Now, he does have a large amount of units though. Yeah, he just has more stuff available right now. And that may honestly be all he really needs. The Cyclone does come out, but the amount of Reapers here is not to be underestimated. Lock on right there did connect with one of the Reapers. 2 SCVs ended up going down there. This is a little bit annoying. ByuN is going to have to replace them, but he's already got a third command center building here on the right side, and that is not something that Clem actually got a glimpse of. So ByuN apparently not all too happy with this early game of his. He's like, you know what? I'll try and pull a rabbit out of a hat. Do we really not want to morph in an orbital command first? I would imagine getting the orbital first would be a better play, but anyways. Eventually, the units in red are going to be getting all the way back home, and we'll now be seeing that Raven production here coming up for Clem. Am I gonna repeat myself like I do with every single Terran versus Terran with the Raven abilities? Do I do it? Okay, fine, because there's always somebody watching that doesn't really watch that much StarCraft 2, and they'll probably be a bit confused about the Raven. The Raven is a flying spellcaster. It's a detector, which is awesome, but it's got 3 skills that are all very helpful in this matchup. First off, it's got an auto turret, a little time turret, deals a bunch of damage. Very self-explanatory. The other 2 abilities, however, a little bit more complex. Second one over here is called Interference Matrix. It requires a bunch of more energy than the Raven has right now, but it can effectively disable one of the opponent's units temporarily. We see this oftentimes used on, well, the opponent's Ravens, but also on the opponent's Siege Tanks. So pushing into a Siege Tank line is much easier if you manage to disable them, even if it's just a few seconds. And then third, we have the Anti-Armor Missile, and the Anti-Armor Missile is fantastic if you can throw it on a large group of your opponent's units, because then the units will temporarily take a bunch more damage. There you go. I feel like I repeat myself a lot in some of these casts, but I know that StarCraft 2, like, I would have appreciated it when I first started watching this game, which admittedly is a very long time ago, and the Raven had entirely different abilities. But anyways, it had, like, PDD. Does anybody remember the PDD, the point defense drone? It had some weird stuff back then. It had the Hunter-Seeker missile, which was one of the dumbest abilities I've ever seen. Anyways, I would have appreciated it if I was a casual viewer, I think. So sometimes I'll repeat myself, but I'm hoping it at the very least helps out 1 or 2 of you guys. The rest, I mean, you can just listen to my well, you can even fast forward, I guess, if you want to, but you can also listen to my one-man podcast. Anyways, despite the hyper-aggression right here that Clem started off this particular, well, game with and the entire series, all is pretty much even here. Yeah, Stimpec is a little bit ahead here for the Frenchman. Okay, that is something to keep in mind. Nice split off, by the way, here for that, from that one Hellion. Okay, in the end, though, yeah, those lock-ons right here by ByuN are solid. Getting a few of his opponent's Hellions as well. And in the end, Nothing even matters. Alrighty. So, the early game at this point is mostly done. The era for all this random combination of units is pretty much over. Good micro there by ByuN. Nicely done. Keeping the Cyclones alive can be nice, although I say that. Yeah, okay, maybe the wall of smoke over there can help out. The line of sight blocker. Or might need... Oh, okay, an interference matrix. I was thinking maybe an auto turret or so, but I guess that's one way to force this unit to back off. Although the Reapers, I think you guys... Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you guys need to run. Okay, so the era for these early game units and these early game skirmishes is pretty much over. It's important to keep some of those units alive. Most notably, of course, the Ravens. They are usually built quite early on, but since they are spellcasters, they have a lot more utility later on as well with the more energy that they accumulate. Right now, we are in what we consider to be the mid-game, so probably the earlier stages of the mid-game. Marines and Siege Tanks are going to be the name of the game most of the time. And of course, well, those Ravens and supportive units that are left over. +1/+1, together with Stimpeg here, already, well, finishing for ByuN. At the same time, we've got ourselves that third command center landed here for Clem, even though his third CC was quite a bit later. He doesn't really, beyond that is, he doesn't really have an option at this point to really fly it down towards the low ground. At the very least, he's playing this a lot more defensively. Maybe these auto turrets here can get some work done. Yeah, mostly just a nuisance, right? So these auto turrets actually deal a lot of damage. You really have to respect them. I mean, that was way more damage than I thought they were going to get. I think they can get one more. There we go, in the main base. That was honestly a very, very successful flyby. They also got a Marine or two too, which is massive. Okay, so that suddenly makes ByuN a lot more confident. Yeah, he decides, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and fly down towards the low ground. I will try and see if I can snipe my opponent's command center as well, and he does get it. Absolutely massive plays right here from ByuN. Clem's so busy trying to defend those Ravens, which he didn't even really do that well, to be honest, that he also, that he also did not actually pay attention there to the move out of his opponent. He almost ends up losing one of his Ravens. That would have been an issue, but in the end, this is a fantastic situation right now here for ByuN. Because he just sniped so many SCVs and he just sniped one of his opponent's command centers, he's effectively forced Clem into an all-in. Now, Clem does have a scary army. 70 army supply versus 69 right here for ByuN. He's trying to get his siege tanks in position. This Raven has only 6 HP, but, well, 6 HP is all it really needs. As long as it's got above 0, it can continuously be helpful. We'll probably be trying to disable this one as well, or just, yeah, kill it straight up. And ByuN does have a scary, Clem does have a scary amount of army here. Moving the siege tanks forward. Viking here to provide high ground vision as well. Super nice. Now we pull the boys here from the third command center. A lot of the SCVs will end up going down, but Clem actually takes a banger of an engagement. An absolute bloodbath over here in the middle of Royal Blood. ByuN still has the third CC alive. He did lose quite a few workers, and it's going to be difficult here for Clem to break into this natural expansion. He's still long distance mining. He may be thinking about firing up a new command center here, well, soon, if that's an option, but for now, Mr. Clem is just making a non-stop army. As a matter of fact, he's even bringing Liberators to the party, and Liberators are fantastic at those, well, forced unsieges here. Okay, that immediately allows him to leapfrog a couple of the tanks forward. ByuN forced to back off over there as well. Tank does move a little bit further back, but you can see that this immediately now allows Clem to move one of his tanks, maybe two of his tanks, a little bit closer. Vikings available right now here as well for ByuN, and these guys, man, they're probably the best micro Terrans in the world. They are neck and neck, right? They're trying their very best. So one of the Liberators there does end up falling, but Clem is smelling blood in the water, but he needs to break this. He can't just, well, dash in here and stim and die, right? Like, he can't, well, he can die, but I don't think that's really what he wants to do. I think he wants to be very careful and he wants to be very methodical. But the longer that he waits, the more value that ByuN is going to get out of all of those mules. There's another interference matrix, though, and this might be the moment. Yeah, a couple interference matrices here as well for ByuN. Disabling a few of those tanks in red, but he sees the amount of tanks that are available in total. He doesn't really want to stim in here. Okay, we do need some high ground vision. There is one of the medevacs. Beautifully done right there by Clem. Okay, we're gonna actually try and sneak out all of the medeffects. That is so dangerous. Immediately, that's all that Clem really needs. He will stim in and clear out this natural expansion. That was a dangerous move. ByuN has unloaded here to the left of this fight. I guess what he wants to do is go down the low ground and try to see if he can surround all of these units. This is an absolute SCV meat grinder though. Maybe he wants to mirror the engagement that Clem was doing, but then on his opponent's side of the map. Yeah, no, I don't like this. GG is cold and Clem gets a very quick 2-0. Really, Clem? Okay. So we're going 3 for 3. We're once again being very cheesy. I don't know what Clem had for breakfast, but I mean, he is from France, so maybe some brie, maybe some camembert. I mean, there's a couple of different options. But either way, the man is feeling very cheesy. This is right outside of the natural expansion of ByuN, though. ByuN has been scouting for proxies, right? So this one is very easy to find. This one is not very... This one's very aggressively positioned. Let's put it like that, right? Clem's been pretty conservative so far with the positioning of his, well, cheesy structures. This time around, yeah, he's not beating around the bush. I don't think I like this spot all too much, to be honest. Maybe he doesn't realize that ByuN's been checking, so ByuN actually goes straight reactor. Okay, there's the second supply depot as well. The reactor will allow him to pump out units 2 at a time, which is very nice, of course. Anything but the Marauder and the Ghost. I mean, making Ghost at this point in the game would be a little bit silly anyways. Factory coming up right now. I mean, it'd be pretty sick if you could somehow, some way get him going, but that will be difficult. Alright, so just straight up cheese right here from Clem. Let's see, how much value can he get? When is he gonna commit? That's also another question. I'm assuming he's gonna wait until he gets at least a few of them, although at this point it's not found though. ByuN is gonna go and make double Reaper here himself. He'll probably be firing up a command center here pretty soon. If he goes for the CC on the low ground, that could be an absolute problem. It depends though how long Clem wants to wait. Okay, he decides to go right now, and I actually think this is a pretty good time. Yeah, if he waited just a little bit longer though, he probably could have just... prevented that CC here, or at the very least forced the SCV to cancel the command center that it was building. Reapers, though, are going to spawn, and they're going to be able to get a first hit in pretty easily. Yeah, they are going to be able to get the first hit in. Nice rally point right there by ByuN. Both players, though, end up losing a Reaper. Third Reaper right here for Clem does show up as well. Okay. Hellion at this point is going to be fantastic, of course. It deals splash damage in a line, and it's got quite a bit of reach. Third Reaper in the main base right now. He wants to kill as many SCVs as possible here. Nice little bit of repair micro as well by ByuN. Trying his very best. This is tricky though. There's the Reapers popping out once again. Another Hellion also comes out of the factory, and that's a disaster. That is an absolute disaster right here. Okay, finally, Mr. ByuN finds himself in a position where he can stabilize. Feel like he's been, okay. I feel like he's been up with his back against the wall for most of this series. I don't know when he first sniped the command center in game number 2, but anyways, he does get a point on the board. Nice. Guys, there's no SCV that moved out across the map here on Dragon Scales. A very sad moment indeed. Even though I actually think the opener was quite successful for Clem, he microed to the best of his abilities, right? But he stuck around in that main base for a little bit too long. Apparently on Dragon Scales, we're gonna be playing a normal game. There's a little bit of irony though, because at least in my mind, ByuN is very well known, well, as the Reaper man, right? I remember watching him at BlizzCon. This was, I think 2016, although don't quote me on that. I think he became the world champion at BlizzCon in 2016. I watched this man live from the audience. I wasn't asked to cast any tournaments back then. I wasn't, I wasn't cool enough back then. Anyways, I watched in the audience, though, as Mr. ByuN obtained the victory, and it was absolutely amazing. He did that off of the back of his amazing, well, Reaper control, but also definitely some cheesy builds. And in my mind, I mean, it's been a long time since 2016. Just so you know, 2016 was not 4 years ago. I know, in my mind, when I think about it, yeah, that's about 4... No! It's about 7 years, dang it! Anyhow, it's been a while, and in my mind, yeah, that hasn't really changed that much. But it turns out in all those years, ByuN has actually changed his playstyle quite a bit, although he certainly still has those aggressive tendencies, right? So, once again, we've got ourselves that Okay, quick reactor over here. He's created a little nuke, like a little welcoming committee here for his opponent, right? To come in. He can come and inspect the barracks and the depot and all that. I'm assuming at this point, well, at the very least, ByuN is thinking that his opponent could go for some cheese. None of that, though, is really happening. This time around, it's going to be double Reaper production right here for ByuN. And we've got a command center conservatively positioned inside of the main base. Alright, a nice little macro game. I wouldn't mind it. Starport is going to be coming up here momentarily for Clem as well. Both players, yeah. ByuN is crossing his T's and dotting his I's. He was looking right there in his own natural expansion just to make sure that there's no structures hiding there behind the mineral line. I mean, you never know, man. There's a little bit of trauma right now on this side of ByuN. I hope he can get over it. Anyways. Yeah, there's that starport coming up here for Clem. Same thing is happening on the other side of the map here for ByuN, who decided to delay his command center. So this is effectively a one base 1-1-1, and that means that ByuN will likely be the aggressor here in just a moment, because he's essentially an entire command center behind here as far as economy goes. So he certainly is going to be looking to get some work done. Still though, a lot of unit production here as well for Clem. I like that depot here in the back just to see if there's any units arriving. Medevac coming up here for both players as well. Orbital command morphing in. Command center starts up here for ByuN. I mean, he doesn't really need to get all too aggressive. The thing is, right, while you're currently, yeah, with a bigger army, and you may have more production, by the time you finally get across the map, your opponent will have caught up, so it's always a bit dangerous. It is also awkward, though, to just sort of have all of these units and then go to the mid-game. Because, yeah, I was gonna say, you were really wondering if maybe you could have had something happen. So, of course, Medevacs can heal up anything biological. Hellions are not biological, but of course the Reapers surely are. And out of combat, together with a Medevac, they can heal up very rapidly. Now, this is about to get... Okay, he does see it, actually. Clem does see it. This is about to get really awkward. Actually, are we gonna just go for the straight counterattack? Apparently, that's the plan. ByuN now has all of those units that he made inside of his opponent's main base, and I really don't know if this is the right decision right here for Clem, who's driving straight towards the other side of the map. He needs to kill a lot of SCVs to justify this, because he is gonna lose a whole load of them at home. Already 13, 14, 15, 16, 7, like, there's already so many that have gone down. Can he make up for that on the other side of the map? Liberator coming up right now as well for ByuN. That'll be helpful when it comes to pushing all this back. I mean... I think he might be able to catch up in that department, but only 4 SCVs right now remain for Clem. Keep in mind, though, he does have 2 mules. Both players took so much damage. 0 workers remain here for Clem. 0 workers. 3 SCVs remain for ByuN, but double orbital command actually is superior here. So even though this was some crazy decision-making here for Clem... Yeah, the Banshee. Oh my god. The Banshee is gonna force all of these units to go back home. Jimmy here has been tasked with, well, chasing down the, with chasing down whatever he can. Eventually, though, it looks like the Reaper got the best of him. So, there's 1 SCV. Both players have now got 0 workers. 0 workers remaining here for both players. Now, the mules inside of the main base of Clem did get sniped. Where did that Banshee go? The Banshee is on the other side of the map. I actually don't know if that's the right call, to be honest. I think defending at home and then just trying to... Well, maybe a rebuilding here would take too long. He wants to snipe the Cyclone, I guess, as soon as it pops out of the factory. There are 2 mules mining over here, though, for ByuN. Yeah, he wants to snipe this. He sees that something's producing. He needs to get the lock on immediately. It's either going to be a tank or a Cyclone. 9 times out of 10, it is going to be... Okay, he does not get the lock on right away. 9 times out of 10, it is going to be a Cyclone. So a Cyclone for a Cyclone, I mean, a low HP one for a high. I guess that's okay. Both players, though, try to just sneak out mules wherever they can, because every unit at this point matters. This is actually a bonkers game right now. What a match. This entire series, actually, is kind of insane. So ByuN still has the superior army, though, right? And that is... especially with the Banshee going down. Yeah, not to be underestimated. ByuN managed to sneak out a Viking. He kills the Banshee. And at that point, Clem knows, well, since he's got literally 0 supply, there is not a whole lot for him remaining. Double orbital command or not. And that brings us to Altitude, the final game of this best of 5 series. Alright, some cheeky games have been played so far, and then suddenly... Even though Clem seemed to be winning this entire series in under 10 minutes, or at the very least that's what it felt like, suddenly we find ourselves in Game 5 on the largest map in the current map pool. Okay, so you can see right here on the production tab that things are pretty much identical. Command centers on the low ground for both players. Factories are coming up here as well for both players. There's a small deviation here and there, but nothing all too significant. Nothing all too significant at the very least because of the size of the map. If one player decided to be more aggressive by the time they finally get across, the opponent will have been able to even up that supply count pretty easily. Alrighty, so ending on a macro game would be fantastic. I feel like the first 4 games really flew by. How long have I been recording for? About a half hour. Yeah, I've not been recording for that long yet. But this entire series has been a quick one so far. I was a little concerned it was going to be 3-0 actually for Clem. I mean, that would have been amazing. But, yeah, seeing Mr. ByuN strike back. Game 4 is actually one of the craziest games I've seen in a long time. The fact that the opponent actually got reduced to 0 supply, I mean... that is how, technically speaking, I guess you win games, right? I mean, the win condition in a game of StarCraft 2 is to destroy all of your opponent's structures, and usually that involves killing all of your opponent's units. Generally speaking, though, the games really never go that far, right? It's very rare, actually, that we see somebody reduced to 0 supply. But I also like the fact that both of the players, well, were reduced to 0 workers there for quite a while. What's really crazy is, though, that Clem saw with that medevac of his that the opponent's army was coming in. And he's like, yep, I'm gonna go straight across the map. I'm not even gonna bother defending anymore. Or maybe he thought, okay, I can't defend anymore. He didn't really know exactly what was inside of his opponent's medevac. So, you know, before you know it, you've got a siege tank sieged up in your main that you can't really do a whole lot about. Anyhow. Here we are. All of that is behind us. We find ourselves on altitude. Double barracks here a little bit quicker for ByuN. That starport is not properly positioned, I don't think, to immediately get the tech lab upon, well, finishing up. Hellions roaming the map. Yeah, he's gonna have to... oh, we're doing the switcheroo. Okay. I was gonna say, he's gonna have to replace that one and put it in a slightly better spot. Third command center has been fired up right here by Clem. So Clem is gonna go for the more classical 1-1-1. And that means right now that he is going to start harassing his opponent with whatever unit he likes. The 1-1-1 is specifically amazing because of the variety of units, right? So 1 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport, a couple tech labs, a reactor. You can effectively make any Terran unit you like by the 5-minute mark. And, well, while many of them are off limits, I would be very surprised if we're going to be seeing a battlecruiser coming up right now. It's technically an option. I mean, I would love it. I don't know what these lads are doing over here. We can certainly, if you want to, man. I mean, we probably need another gas, but... okay. Barracks number 2 is starting up together with barracks number 3. We've been seeing quite a bit of double starport play lately in this matchup. So Marines, by the way, I don't know if I like this drop all too much by ByuN. He does push this back eventually, but a lot of those Marines quite literally dropped out of the plane into the line of fire right there. Anyhow, we've been seeing quite a bit of double starport play in this matchup, especially from guys like, for example, Gumiho, who... yeah, seem to be favoring that heavy siege tank Viking into Liberator-based army. Really fun to see, but this is what we consider to be a lot more normal. So, mass Marine tank. Yep. The add-ons are switched around all over the place. But eventually, all of the roads do lead towards this very standard mid-game. So both players are going to be adding on their barracks here, so you can see that ByuN... I mean, they took different approaches, but in the end... the paths all come together with a very similar unit comp. Third command center here about to finish up already for ByuN. We don't have that one, well, finishing up right now for Clem. Good save, Lowko. Because he already finished it. He's actually already, good save, Lowko. He's already morphed it into an orbital. I was gonna say, if he doesn't have a third CC yet at this point, he's gonna have to go for some sort of aggression, but none of that really the case. Medevac is an empty medevac drop, that is. It's gonna just confirm exactly what he already suspected. An average game. Okay, so I'm actually glad to see this. Glad to see this ending in a somewhat normal game. At the very least, everything is A-okay so far. Both players apparently done cheesing. There's money on the line, of course, for a series like this. So they're gonna try and do their very best. Okay, Cyclone ends up falling. Yeah, and the Raven does manage to stay alive. 4 SCVs have already gone down. Third CC now landed on the low ground here for ByuN, who seems to be a fan of just flying the CC down and then eventually morphing into an orbital. It's a bit funny. In all the other matchups, we always see players morphing in orbital first and then, well, eventually going from there. Quite a few SCV kills here, though, by Clem. Not bad at all. So, ByuN did have that second barracks a little bit quicker, so the marine count is in his favor here. Yeah, he's got Stimpack already done, so he's thinking about maybe getting something of value out of this marine army as well. The problem is that his opponent is finishing up Stimpack right now, and while Combat Shields is gonna finish up, still a long ways behind this. Yeah, so in the end, everything really is pretty much even here, with a small advantage for Clem, who just has been trading more effectively here in the earlier stage of the game, just getting more kills. Okay. Now, ByuN is very much so the kind of guy who will get a bunch of medevacs and then boost them all around the map to try and create as much chaos as possible. In my mind, though, Clem is the same type of guy. Considering I've seen ByuN play for a whole lot longer than I have seen Clem, because Clem is still, you know, a relatively young player, I'm inclined to imagine that Clem has probably studied quite a few of ByuN's replays over the years, and maybe that's even where he got his play style. They play really quite similarly, but then in an entirely different region. That being said, these days I think that yeah, Clem is certainly good enough to be studied by ByuN as well. I think both of these players are very familiar with one another. Anyways, 2-2 has been fired up right here by ByuN. These are very critical upgrades in this matchup. And this is actually kind of sloppy here by Clem. His armory is too late to immediately start up 2-2 himself. So this does mean that for, I want to say about a minute and a half or so, depending on when Clem finishes up and starts up this stuff, yeah, he's gonna, ByuN that is, he's gonna have an upgrade advantage. That actually is quite painful. So there it is, and there is the other one, but maybe not a minute and a half, maybe a minute or so, but it's quite significant. Eventually though, if the game goes on for long enough, both players will finish up 3-3. And if that's the case, well, the upgrade advantage doesn't really matter anymore. Units are sent all around the map just to keep the opponent honest. Just to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. A bunch of Marines here sleeping on the job. Medifex get sniped! ByuN! ByuNbelievable. What was that? Okay, sorry. Smash like, guys. Thank you. Lowko, you're so funny. Thanks, guys. Seriously, though, that was an uncharacteristic error. ByuN does have a lot of APM here, which is fair enough, but he must have been looking at someplace else. He's always a fan of parking medevacs out on the map and just having units set up all over the place. And it works in theory, assuming you control everything nicely, but if you're not paying very close attention, you'll find yourself in a lot of trouble. Ravens with a lot of energy here, man. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's about time you get out of here. Okay, medevacs do lift up those siege tanks because ByuN could also smell what was cooking here. +3 starts up, wrong upgrade. This is something that ByuN does continuously, where he starts up the wrong upgrade first. You always want to be prioritizing the attack upgrade anyways. Apparently though, he decides to just take this engagement here. Both players, for all intents and purposes, right now maxed out. Siege tank here in red is gonna get sniped, but there is a Liberator available, and just having a single one is already very nice. He could have Interference Matrix, but he decided not to pull that off yet because he needs to find an angle to push in from. He's actually just driving the siege tanks onto the ice. Luckily here, altitude seems to be quite stable. A couple Marines get sacrificed here in favor of killing that Liberator. Now the +3 attack starts up as well. Yeah, if you can only afford one, you always go for the attack upgrade first, unless your name is ByuN. Then apparently you don't. Okay, so the timing window here is closing, since Clem has already, well, finishing up right now. Okay, this is something ByuN realizes. He's finishing up his upgrades here. At this point, everything is essentially equalized, but once again, we have a massive counterattack. Command center there gets cancelled immediately. Loads of SCVs are gonna find their graves. Is he gonna stim in here and try and get the kills? I mean, he disables, Clem that is, he disables some of the opponent's tanks, but already 13 workers have gone down, and it looks like the orbital command at the very least managed to sneak away. Good engagement right there by ByuN. He decides to move forward here as well, forcing all of his opponent's tanks to siege up. Clem needs to be cautious. Matter of fact, drop goes into the main base. And this is super dangerous, man. ByuN going in here, getting a whole lot of damage done right from the get-go. Clem is thinking about doing the same thing in the meantime on the other side of the map, but he's still busy defending here at home. There's quite a few tanks available in red, and I think that these medevacs are not gonna find a place to go. Nice catch up right there though by Clem, sniping all these units. Now he's gonna try and mirror his opponent's engagement, but hopefully a little bit more carefully on the other side of the map. There's a siege tank set up already. Marines get stimmed here for ByuN. Clem wants his opponent's units to stim straight into the tanks, of course. Okay. Is he gonna drop on top of these siege tanks in blue? Yeah, he sure is. These units do have a minimum firing range, and all of those tanks in blue are now gonna get cleaned up, and that is very painful. What started off as a fantastic fight for ByuN ends up with an advantage right here for Clem. That's the orbital command, also gone. Units are coming back. Scan over here by Clem reveals that there's no fourth command center landed there just yet on the right side of the map, so he decides to take this as an opportunity to just regroup. I think that's the right call. He's already got another CC done here himself. He did restart that one after, well, losing it over here. He decided to restart it closer to the planetary fortress. Medevacs over here end up going down, and that's a big catch once again. That is about 16 Marines here, I think, in total that will end up getting cleared out. ByuN still has a scary amount of units, but the siege tank count is just not there. 12 versus 5. Yeah, and he does meet a few of them here as well. ByuN wants to go around. And instead, he's now forced to run and get on out of there. Siege tank maybe position itself on the high ground. That would be nice, close to the watchtower, so it's got a lot of range. Honestly, at this point, Clem may just have the superior numbers to just stim forward and kill everything. But of course, it's difficult for him to read that. Another siege tank does get disabled, but he does not decide to commit here for the time being. A couple Marines right there misrallied by ByuN. Another interference matrix, slowly but surely, man. Clem is dismantling ByuN. And honestly, in this series so far, he's slightly outplaying him, which is really cool. Like, normally it's ByuN who, in my mind, really thrives in these chaotic games. And even though Clem plays very similarly, it's a bit more of an Excel spreadsheet, you know? Like the way that Clem plays, so usually a lot more of that efficiency and a lot more of those calculated moves. But so far in these crazy engagement, it seems to be that Clem is the one with the better decision making. I mean, that previous game, I guess, wasn't quite the case, but the fact that he committed to that counterattack still surprises me. Here we go, though. ByuN needs to be so careful. He doesn't have a lot of eco anymore. He's indecisive. He's marching back and forth and back and forth and back and forth here with that large army of his, but yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot he can really get done over here. Not a lot of Marines, though, remain here for Clem. He's got a whole lot of them, though, set up right here at home. That orbital command may end up going down, and that would be great. This is actually not a very good fight here for Clem. Not having those siege tanks sieged up may just be a disaster, but that's because he's busy on the other side, sniping one of his opponent's tanks. There is a tank here in the high ground of the Terran player in blue. Tanks over here dealing a lot of splash damage. Clem retargeting, but good splits right there by ByuN, trying to mitigate as much of that splash damage as possible. Reinforcing units should be able to clean up that army in blue, and that means that both players are going to be putting most of their attention over here in the natural expansion of ByuN. And the siege tank count here, I talked about it before, it has just not changed. 11, well 10 right now versus only 2. The advantage is heavily in favor right here of Clem. Clem's got 4 base economy. There is another command center, by the way, that did sneak towards the right side right after Clem scanned here, so he doesn't actually know about this one right now. Oh, this is the moment, though, where apparently ByuN decides to stim down his ramp. High ground vision was not available there for Clem, so you know what? Despite the fact that ByuN was pretty much dead in the water, he takes a banger of an engagement because his opponent didn't have that high ground vision. He's gonna need to boost the medevacs. He currently doesn't have the cooldown available. Oh my god, ByuN is gonna snipe all of those medevacs. That was an engagement and a half right there by ByuN. He does scan right now the top left. He sees that his opponent has been mining there. If Clem would have seen those units ready to stim down, man, if he had one scan on the high ground when that happened, I think that would have gotten shredded by the time that they finally reached those tanks in red. Right now, though, things have been evened up, at least somewhat. Siege tank count no longer heavily in favor right here of Clem, who does decide to take the engagement. One upgrade advantage right here for ByuN, by the way, who did finish that +3 armor, whereas there's only, well, a single upgrade at +3 right here for Clem, who's still ready to continue the aggression. I actually really like this decision for him, but it's difficult, of course, for him to read how this game is going right now. Okay, here we go. Big stim, big stim, big stim. He does take down all of his opponent's tank with the exception for the one that was on siege. He's inviting his opponent's units into the siege tank line, and I think that's it. GG is indeed cold. And what almost looked like a reverse sweep is gonna be a victory for Clem, who wins the ESL Open Cup 183.